but I don't carry that with me as soon as I step off the court. I don't care about you that much, even to try to want to hate you. You hear what I mean? I hear all the time that Michael hated such and such, Isaiah hated such and such. I'm not thinking about you at home when I'm on my couch for me to hate you that much. That's just not who I am.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily podcast on fantasy basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Fantrax and Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and you can find me on Twitter at redrock_bball. We're back with another of the positional tiers preview podcast. We've done the point guard so far. We've done the shooting guards as well. So here to talk about the small forwards, the next in the logical progression of the positions. I'm joined once again by Matt Smith to go through all the threes in the league. Matt, how are you?
I am very well. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to have you on here. We're recording this 6 hours or so after the Chris Middleton news came down. So we're going to talk about that when we get into some one of the other Bucks small forwards players. You would have already heard I did like a 4-minute podcast regarding the Middleton news, but Matty, just some reaction from you, I guess, to hear about what you make of the Middleton situation and what potentially can happen in Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's devastating news for Chris Middleton and the Milwaukee Bucks. I did listen to your little 4-minute little talk about Chris Middleton, but obviously now, becomes undraftable in redraft leagues unless for some reason you have 3 IR spots. In that case, you probably can stash him, but it's going to be a long season with him on the bench. But yeah, there's a few bodies behind sort of Chris Middleton in that sort of guard spot, but no one really stands out. Like Michael Carter-Williams could get a few extra minutes, Rashad Vaughn, Malcolm Brogdon, Matthew Dellavedova, but like I said, there's no real standout. I think it's going to be good news for Jabari Parker. I think we can probably bump him up a round or 2 in the rankings. I don't know what you've done with the projections yet, but maybe
I bumped him
let
up
us
a
know
bit.
in a minute.
Yep.
But yeah, Parker will take on more scoring. Giannis will need to take on more scoring. Maybe that puts the ball in the hands of Michael Carter-Williams or Matthew Dellavedova more, and Giannis increases his scoring, but it drops his field goal percentage and maybe his assist a tad, not enough to drop him out of the first round or anything. And then up in the front court, maybe means more touches and more points for someone like a Greg Monroe and Mirza Teletovic, especially Teletovic, to spread the floor. And then we also think there could be a trade coming. So it's a bit of a wait and see, really.
Yeah, there could be a trade coming. That's apparently what the Bucks are looking to. There's a couple of things that I didn't get off my chest. I literally recorded that as soon as that tweet came out from Shams this morning regarding Middleton's injury. So I've had a bit more time to think about it. He's had 6 months. He's going to be out for 6 months. That puts him at the end of March. That is the season. So even if you've got an IR spot, your season's done. It's over by that point. So I don't see him playing at all this season, to be honest, unless for some reason the Bucks are sitting up with a top 4 seed and they just ease him back in like Blake Griffin did in April to get him ready for the playoffs. I just don't see that being the case. So I can't even see, even in an IR situation, him being draftable. A lot of people are coming out saying, the Bucks will just go and start Mirza Teletovic now. They'll move Jabari to the 3, they'll put Giannis at the 2, and Mirza will get 30 minutes. That is an absolutely horrific defensive pairing of Jabari and Mirza at the 3 and the 4, and Kidd won't stand for that. Yep, Teletovic will get some more touches, he'll get some more minutes. He's not just taking Middleton's 36 minutes and starting, because it will be a disaster to put. Parker struggles at defending 4s. How's he going to defend 3s? Like he will struggle immensely in that sort of a role. And you can say, okay, Giannis can guard them, and then he's going to go guard 2s. Like it's just going to be a nightmare. And this is what Jason Kidd's done in the past. I had a bit more of a think about it. He starts rookies. He starts second round rookies. Yeah, Rashad Vaughn was the second worst rookie in the entire NBA last season. He played like 75 games. So he was in the rotation pretty much every night. Dreadful. The year before that, Johnny O'Bryant was a second-round rookie. He started a crazy amount of games. The year before that, in Brooklyn, Markel Brown, as a second-round rookie, started games. Malcolm Brogdon's better than Markel Brown. Malcolm Brogdon's better than Johnny O'Bryant. Malcolm Brogdon is the guy that I think takes a significant jump. He might start, he might not. They might go Carter-Williams, Dellavedova at the 1-2, but Brogdon is the guy who hits threes, plays defense, handles the ball. the three things that Chris Middleton really did. Now, he does them at 25% of what Middleton did them at, but he has that exact same skill set where he can sort of fit in that role. It won't be 35 minutes. It might be 21. It might be 22 minutes, but I see him fitting into that role that Middleton's vacated. Yes, more touches to Delhi, more minutes to Delhi. Same with Carter Williams, same with Munro, same with Teletovic, same with Jabari, same with Giannis. But Brogdon gets a shot, I think, of being a starter at some point in the first couple of months of the season to see how it works out. That's the way I'm looking at it at the moment. We might get more information coming out, but that's how I'm sort of seeing it now.
So do you think that pushes Brogdon into sort of a top 200 type range, and we're sort of in that 16 team sort of range of drafts for him in terms of value?
It's a good question. I'm not sure he goes top 200, but if I'm drafting in that sort of situation, I would grab him and see how it works out. But I think he might have some struggles initially. But yeah, look, at the back end of a 16-teamer, I would grab him and just see exactly, I guess, how it pans out, because I think there's a decent chance that he could play 20, 25 minutes a night and hit threes and get some steals and get some assists and be valuable in that sense. But we're not here to do a 50-minute Chris Middleton breakdown. I think that's about all we know at this point. Again, a trade could come and none of that could mean anything at this point. We're going to talk small forward tiers in this podcast, Matt. So
let's get to it.
All right, kick us off. Tier 1.
Tier 1, Kevin Durant. And as I say in these articles, this is where we have these guys positioned in our depth charts. So although KD might play a lot of power forward this season with the Warriors, he's starting small forward and still technically a small forward. So he might have lost his top 2 fantasy standing, but there's no reason why he should fall out of the top 4 or the top 5 in any sort of format. And to think that he might even become more efficient with the Warriors is pretty scary to think about. So yeah, he's on his own there in tier 1.
Now, I've seen bandied about on quite a few different forums that Kawhi Leonard should be in consideration for the number 1 pick. Kawhi Leonard should be picked number 2. Kawhi Leonard should be picked in the first 3 picks. We don't have him in tier 1, equal with Kevin Durant. Would you ever consider Kawhi as a number 1 pick?
No, and I haven't heard that. That's really strange. Kawhi's...
It's in 9-cat roto leagues. People are saying, let's take Kawhi number 1.
Okay, 9-cat roto, it's still not number 1, but you can give him a little bit of a boost up the rankings by maybe a couple of spots. But even in 9-cat roto, then to me it's still probably Steph Curry.
Yep.
Maybe Harden, but then the turnovers are going to become a big issue. But in roto leagues, yes, Kawhi gets a little bit of a boost because he does enough, and it does more than enough in every category. And head-to-head, I still have a small issue because he is so even across the board, and he doesn't give you that massive advantage in any one category. It's 20 points, 7 rebounds, a couple of assists, a couple of steals are elite and brilliant. And then a block and a 3.5 a game, which on awesome percentages, but once again, volumes average. It's not great. So yeah, for me personally, I like getting someone who's going to give me a big advantage in a couple of categories, like a Harden, like a Curry, like a Westbrook, maybe even a Karl Anthony Towns with his blocks and rebounds and efficiency. So yeah, that's sort of my take on Kawhi Leonard and why he's in tier 2 with 3 other guys.
Well, I'm going to get back to Kawhi in 1 sec. I sort of skipped over Durant. Yeah, look, he has lost his top 2 standing, but he's still going to do stuff. He's still going to be really efficient, probably increase. He gets more assists than you might imagine. He blocks, he steals, he hits threes, he grabs rebounds, he scores. He does pretty much everything. So if I'm sitting at pick 4 and he's slipped to me, I'm more than happy with grabbing Durant at that spot. There's a clear top 4 to me in this in these fantasy drafts, and he's one of the... Yes, he's probably 4th, but he's still clearly above the next group of guys. Now, onto tier 2 where Kawhi is. I wanted to mention something else about Kawhi as well. And there's as you're aware, Matt, I've got no life. I browse a lot of fantasy forums and read comments of people. It's a good idea and read Twitter as well to get an idea of people's thought process, what they're thinking, how they're going. And there's a lot of talk Kawhi. He's their star. He's their leader. He was that last season already, but Duncan's not there. No, he's going to go forward again. That's why we're considering him at number 1, number 2. He's going to take a step forward. And I like to be contrarian. I like to throw out an alternate point of view, Tim Duncan had a usage of 17% last year. Pau Gasol's was 25%. Tim Duncan played less than 25 minutes a game. Pau Gasol played 31%. Pau is not coming in and having a 17% usage and playing 24 minutes a night. It's not happening. It's even if he plays 29 minutes a night and usage goes to 22, that's still a lot of possessions that have to go out of Duncan's hands and get funneled into Pau's. Now, yes, LaMarcus Aldridge loses some of those, but it's not coming completely off what Aldridge did. So, look, Leonard could very comfortably stay where he was last year, but to think that he's just going to take another monster step forward while hitting 45% from three again, it feels a little far-fetched to me.
Yeah, and if you look at the jump from 14-15 to 15-16, like he increased by 5 points per game by nearly 3% by 0.8 threes. It was a big jump in that respect. So to expect him to go again and get to 24, 25 points and maybe 8 rebounds, I think that's asking a little bit too much. So I think it'll be shared between himself and Aldridge. Like Danny Green, maybe Kyle Anderson there as well. But yeah, he's still probably sort of more top 6, top 7 pick for me, Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, that's the sort of range to me that he is. I can't see a situation where he starts doing significantly more than what he did last season. I don't know. It just feels a little bit far-fetched to think that he would do that. Now, look, he stepped it up at the end of last season, but again, Pau is going to have to absorb some of those shots. It's just the sort of player that Gasol is. He's just not going to play a Tim Duncan role. It's just not going to happen. So I like Leonard. I think he's really solid and really stable there, but when you're looking at him and thinking, you can look at why would he take a step forward? What ingredients make him take a step forward? And all the ingredients make me think that he possibly won't take a step forward. So that's why I just, fine, pick 7, pick 8, pick 6, wherever you want to go, fine. But to think that he's going to average now 25 points a night, and take this, people say, he's going to take over the mantle from Tim Duncan. Yeah, sure, but Tim Duncan's mantle was being a guy in the locker room who played 20 minutes a night and was the best defensive player by defensive box score plus minus. We know he can do that. Doesn't mean he's taking his shots because Duncan didn't have any shots. So that's the issue I have just with that sort of an argument. The rest of tier 2, Matty, who's in that one?
Yeah, LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I've got Paul George in there as well. I did think about having him in a tier by himself just because I think Kawhi, LeBron, and Giannis are all sort of more between that 5 and 10 range, whereas Paul George is probably, to me, personally, between sort of maybe 10 and 14. But once again, this comes back to our 8-cat projections in terms of value through Basketball Monster, and Paul George and Giannis both come out with a value of 0.7. So that's why I've got them in the one tier. But yeah, I did seriously consider having Paul George in a tier on his own.
And Paul George was spectacular last season. I don't think there's anyone that can doubt that. And by spectacular, I mean surprising in terms of the way that he came back from his injury. But he was a guy that was, I think the opinion of him was buoyed by his first month where he was red hot, and he was really bad in terms of his shooting for the rest of the season. He is a significant detriment to your field goal percentage category, and you've got to be aware of that if you're drafting him. He's a great pairing, and in the one-man mock draft, I think I grabbed him at 12 and took Dame Lillard at 13 and said, you know what, my field goal percentage is going to be shit. Let's just get scoring. Let's just get some decent assist numbers. He helps the steals from Lillard. He gets you nice free throw percentage, but his scoring is really, really bad in terms of efficiency, and that's the thing that you got to look at with George. Otherwise, he will return similar numbers to last season, but that he was really buoyed by, I think he shot 45% from 3 in November last season, which is he's just not a shooter like that. And then he significantly struggled. And yes, there were fatigue issues, so maybe he improves that a little bit this season, but he still was a bit of he was a huge detriment in that category. Now, Giannis, with Middleton gone, let's say he's gone for the season. We talked about the potential issues with Giannis now, that he might score more, but he might have less assists. He might have less efficiency. And you'll get people coming to you, and I'm sure you've had it today, Matt. Oh, okay, Giannis, he's bumping up now. Does he now become an early second, late first round guy? And I'd say that he was that already. it doesn't change much for him. Does it change anything for you with him, really?
No, it doesn't. I was just going to ask, have you adjusted the projections?
Yeah, I have.
What did it do? I haven't had a chance to have a look.
Not
much.
a lot. I think, not a lot. I think, whereas he's coming in at number 12 at the moment. I think he was there before. I don't think it really changed anything.
Yeah, like I said, maybe he does score a little bit more and that hurts his efficiency and it might cost him.
What it could do, he could play instead of 36 minutes a night, he could play 37 minutes a night, and that's a significant change. But we don't know that at this point. We don't know if Kid will just go, okay, just you go balls out for 82 games. That might happen, but it seems a bit unlikely. But that's the possibility. So there's a little bit of upside there with him, I think.
Yeah, I'm still all aboard Giannis. I love him. Like I said, sort of in that 8 to 10 range, and there's been some pretty good discussion and debate around the Giannis versus LeBron James sort of pick. What's your take on those two, and who would you prefer?
Well, I had picked 9 in the Red Rock Champions League head-to-head, and I wanted Giannis. He went at 8, so I took LeBron. So I would have taken Giannis ahead of LeBron. But I can... Really, when you look at it, I think Giannis has got upside to be number 1. I don't think LeBron has that at this point in his career and the way that he's playing. But median values, I think, in terms of floor, I think you're safer with LeBron.
Yeah.
But really... If you get either one of them, I don't reckon you're going to be... it's not going to make or break what you do this season.
No, I don't think so. To me, I'd probably still take Giannis, like those 1.7 blocks that we've got him projected for from a point guard, shooting guard, small forward position, depending on where he's eligible. That is just ridiculous. And I've said this before and tweeted it out. The categorical and statistical advantage and strategical advantage that Giannis can give you by... putting him at point guard and you're getting 8 rebounds and 7 assists and 1.7 blocks, or putting him at small forward and still getting those 7 assists. Like, he's just going to make your team so flexible. It's going to be pretty cool to watch. So I'd take Giannis, but it is close.
Tier 3, who we got in this tier?
Tier 3, we have Carmelo Anthony and Jimmy Butler. Now, I've never been a massive fantasy fan of Carmelo Anthony. I've always thought he's a better real-life player than a fantasy player, but he hasn't actually finished in the top 25 over the past 2 seasons, and I think that might be the case again. Maybe pushing sort of top 30 value, but I wouldn't be reaching for him inside the top 25. And Jimmy Butler, those career high in assists last season were a big boost to his value, and it's hard to see how that remains with Rondo and Dwayne Wade over there in Chicago.
Butler's being drafted at number 11 on Yahoo, and I've said it plenty of times. It's stupid. You shouldn't be drafting him that high. It just makes no sense. That people say, "Oh yeah, he lost Gasol and Rose." That's fine, but he got Wade and Rondo, and the assists are a big part of why he had so much value, and he's just not going to average that same amount of assists. Melo is a guy, Matt, that I look at and go, yeah, okay. He had 2 top 10 finishes in 12-13 and 13-14, and then it's dropped outside the top 25 the last couple of seasons. But what he does is he provides 20-plus points for you, and it's real tough to get that sort of contribution. Plus, he almost gives you 8 rebounds and over 4 assists last season, and a steal and half a block. And he's not a field goal drain like Paul George. He's not the same drain in that area. Good free throw shooter. I reckon he's a really solid third round guy, but the injuries, he has struggled to play. He got 72 games last year, which is not bad, but he hasn't had the greatest run of health throughout his career. He's older, but I think that he's a guy that you might find him slip to the end of the third round. That could very easily happen. And I'm all for it because you get 23 points out of him. You get 8 rebounds. You get 4 assists. You get a steal, you get really good free throw percentage. Those are good numbers. I can't see much changing for Melo this season. I can't really look. Maybe the season after he takes somewhat of a step back, but I actually do like him. I think you can get him at value in a lot of situations.
You can have him. That's
cool.
Fine.
Thank you.
Tier 4, 2 guys. We've got Andrew Wiggins and Gordon Hayward now. Andrew Wiggins, I haven't been a big fan over the last couple of years just because he doesn't do enough in those counting stats, the rebounds, the steals, the assists, the threes. But he did impress me a little bit more last year, especially with that big step in scoring and efficiency. And I think he's going to see some extra minutes and extra touches. So hopefully he can increase those counting stats and really cement himself as a top 50 player. And Gordon Hayward, just super solid. Doesn't have a standout area of his game, but doesn't have a weakness either. And he's also super durable, playing between 72 and 80 games in each of his last 4 seasons.
He's been a points guy and a negative in every other category, but he did take his shooting up in all of 2016. He shot 48%, so it's a huge number as a guy that's shooting guard eligible. He took his 3-point percentage to 41 after the All-Star break. He's not going to remain at 41, but he gets that to 35, 36 after he was at 31 in his rookie season. That's a significant jump. His free throws, he hovered around 80% after the All-Star break on 6.5 attempts, so he gets that to 82, and that's almost becoming a free throw anchor at that sort of a volume. I think that you can see, look, his rebounds and assists are really low, but in his rookie season, he was at 4.5 rebounds. He was only 3.5 last season. Get it back to your rookie numbers, increase your steals a little bit. I'm like you. I've been off him completely. I drafted him in round 4, I believe, in a draft this season, just because mainly I wanted his points. But I do think that he can actually start to live up to being a top 50 player this season. Never behind it last season, but I am behind it this season. And Gordo, look, we know who he is. His assist numbers have dropped a little bit. I think they'll continue to remain a little bit down just with Hood and Exum and Hill and all these other guys handling the ball. He's not going to go back to a 5.5 assists guy, but everything else he does is just solid, and he's a significant roto player as well, just with his across the board production. He's really good in that format. Tier 5, Maddie, a couple of really interesting players in this tier here. Trev Ariza and Rudy Gay. And we know that Rudy Gay is going to be declining his player option. He's told the Kings he could very well be on a new team. What would a trade do for Rudy Gay, do you think?
Yeah, well, that's the $1 million question. It really depends where he lands. Once again, like, he's a bit of a poor man's Carmelo Anthony. I've never been a massive fan of his fantasy game. Yes, he can score, but once again, in head-to-head leagues, I do like those guys who can, like I said before, give you those big boosting categories, and he's okay in rebounds and assists and steals and threes, and efficiency is not too bad at times. But he's not like the number 2 offensive option, which he used to be. And like I said,
who is then? Who's the number 2 offensive option in Sacramento if it's not him?
Well, Cousins and then Cousins and then Cousins. But like, where's he going to end up?
Yeah, that's the thing. There's talk of him going to Milwaukee, but for who?
But then if he goes to Milwaukee, then he's the 3rd option behind Giannis and Parker. So,
could he go? He could go wherever he could go up. He could go down. So it does make him a risky pick here. But what I think we've got to look at is the numbers he put up last year. He got rondoed last season. He saw his assists drop from 3.7 to 1.7. He's always been a consistent 3 assists per game guy. He got rondoed, and that affected his scoring. The ball came out of his hands. The assists dropped as well. Rondo's not there anymore. The assists should come back up for him as long as he remains in Sacramento again, unless he ends up in Chicago and he's playing with Rondo again, which is probably not going to happen. But the assists go back up. I think the scoring jumps back up as well. So I think that, we saw last season, it wasn't the beginning of the end for him. It was the 1 year Rondo effect, and it's very similar to the effect that I think that Jimmy Butler might undergo, just that the ball comes out of your hands. Now, Butler's a better player than Gay, but that significant drop that Gay took in that assists area is something that Butler owners are going to have to pay attention to. The risk is definitely there with him, though.
Yeah, maybe like if he ends up on somewhere like the Pelicans, who are desperate for a wing scorer,
awesome there.
And the up-tempo fantasy offense there, like that could really boost his value and put him back inside the top 50. I'm just looking through teams here, trying to come up with
Pelicans was the one I thought initially as well.
Places I could squeeze him in. Like, I know I've been, as a Suns fan, saying he'd sort of fit in there on the wing if we could move PJ Tucker or TJ Warren, but then he's still got Eric Bledsoe and Booker and Knight to sort of score. But if you want a couple of stashes, then Omri Caspi is an awesome stash right now in case Rudy Gay gets moved.
I think Caspi is worth a late round pick even if Gay doesn't get moved.
Yep. Yeah, you took him in, I think, the last round of one of our drafts, and I was hoping he'd go undrafted and I could snag him off the waiver wire, but wasn't to be. but yeah, no, love Omri Caspian. Just while we're talking about stash candidates, also love either John Henson or Miles Plumley in Milwaukee in case Greg Munro gets moved as well. So a couple of guys there just to consider if you already have drafted.
Ariza, he's going to be playing under Mike D'Antoni. Doesn't score a huge amount. I don't imagine that changes too much, but what he does is get you lots of steals, he gets you lots of threes. He also starts seasons really, really slowly, so be aware of that. He's a poor field goal percentage guy, but he's a decent free throw guy that shot 88% after the break last season. He's a good three-point shooter. Pretty unsexy, I think that's fair to say, and I reckon you can probably get him comfortably outside the top 50.
Yep.
He's a good investment at that spot.
Yeah, I think so. I drafted him at 61 or 62 in a head-to-head league. I got sniped and Miles Turner got taken before me, who I really wanted, but at that point of the draft, his threes and steals combination, which is elite, which is too good to turn down. And in D'Antoni's offense, yeah, he's could jump back inside the top 50. And yeah, like you said, if you can get him outside, then that's a good return on investment.
His ADP is outside the top 60 on both Yahoo and ESPN, so you're talking about 10, 12 spots of value you can potentially get with Ariza, and he might slide even further in a lot of situations just because he scores 12 points a game, and that's not appealing to a lot of people. But 2 threes and 2 steals, or 2.5 threes and 2 steals is very appealing. Now, tier 6, there's a lot of interesting guys here in this list. Matty, do you want to go through them?
Yeah, this tier is pretty random.
It is.
We've got Chandler Parsons. We've got Rondé Hollis Jefferson, who that might sound a little high, but stick with us. We've got Aaron Gordon, and I've got Jay Crowder. So I know you're a big Chandler Parsons fan, and you're on the bandwagon for this season. How early would you take him?
Well, that's the thing. I'm on the bandwagon if he goes into the 80s or the late 70s or the 90s as I got him another spot, then I'm all over him. If I have to take him at 55, probably wouldn't. If I have to take him at 60, probably not. Like on Yahoo, he's 91 ADP, ESPN 61. ESPN at 61, I'd probably say, you know what, that's probably average, above average value. Where in the majority of the time he should be better than that, but there's a significant chance he's worse. At 91, it's forget about it. If he gets injured, then he's gone. You're dropping that spot anyway. Where if you've got top 30 upside with him, at 60, it depends who else. Again, if some of my other boys have gone, like Schroeder's gone and Russell's gone and Miles Turner's gone, and Parsons is sitting there at 60, I'll go, yeah, okay, yep, he can gain me 30 spots of value at this point because he's really good.
Obviously, it depends on team building who you've got, but just Chandler Parsons and Aaron Gordon, how would you split them?
I think Parsons has got more value. I think he's got more upside, but the risk is obviously higher. But I would take Parsons ahead of Gordon at this point.
Yeah, I don't see myself drafting either, but I think I would probably take Aaron Gordon. Chandler Parsons' knees just really concern me. So,
it's a definite worry.
Yeah.
Now, what about Jay Crowder in Boston? He had a red hot start to last season. He was getting steals like they were going crazy, but he shot 29% from 3 in the post All-Star break period. He did drop off. He didn't play over 31 minutes a night in that time frame. What do we make of him this season? Which one is the real Jay Crowder? Can he improve? Where does he look to be? Like, some people are going to go and think he's a top 40 guy, and that's ridiculous to me. But he was also pre-ranked really, really low on Yahoo. So there was I think his ADP is 116. So there's still great value on Crowder. Are you a Crowder man?
Not necessarily. Like I've got here, if you miss out on Trevor Ariza and you do need those steals and threes, then he's a good guy to get a round or two later on. But I'm just hoping for a little bit more consistency across the season. Like you said, the hot start last year, and then he really, really dropped off. I'm hoping that with Al Horford there now, he might be able to go out and play the passing lanes a little bit more and increase his assists, increase his steals. Sorry. And then also, offensively, maybe Horford and Isaiah Thomas being the 1 and 2 go-to scorers there. Crowder can sit in the corner more and he can get a couple of easier shots. So, once you get sort of into maybe 65 to 80 range, I don't mind him with a little bit of upside there. And Rondé Hollis Jefferson.
Yeah, this is the one. This is the one we need to talk about because there's a lot of debate about this guy here. A lot of people thinking that maybe I've lost my mind where he comes out in the projections. But Matt, go ahead. Give us the thoughts.
Yeah, well, projections he's ranked super high. Even I was like, Josh, what the hell were you on when you were doing them? But at 62, but it's the big boost in rebounds. Like 8 rebounds from a shooting guard spot is amazing. The 2 steals and the 0.7 blocks as well. So obviously there's going to be a massive hit in terms of his points. Efficiency is probably a little bit below where we would like, but he's got no competition there in Brooklyn, and it looks like it's going to be a breakout season for RHJ.
Yeah, this is something, and I've said this before as well. I don't go and do the projections and go, let's make Rondé Hollis Jefferson 62nd. Not what I did at all. I went through and said, okay, these numbers, 9.5 points, that's pretty reasonable in 31 minutes for a guy who's terrible on offense. That's not many points. 8 rebounds, really good rebounder. 2.5 assists, that's not a big number. 2 steals, yeah, he's a really good guy at steals. 0.7 blocks, absolutely. Like, why can't he do this in 31 minutes? 46 and 75. That's how his numbers come out. They're not exciting, but the fact that he's got so many steals, so many rebounds, doesn't hurt you in either percentage. And the points are a concern, but you should have addressed those earlier, because if you haven't addressed points by the time you get to these late rounds, then you're not winning points. So that's straightforward. So by no means am I saying that at pick 62 you'd pick Rondé Hollis Jefferson. You just don't. But he is a guy that at his ADP of 142 or 121, you get him at pick 100, which is fine. Then you're probably getting yourself 40 spots of value. And even if, say, for some reason he doesn't get 27 minutes, who knows why? Like, who else are they playing over this guy? Unless he gets hurt again, like, who else are they playing? 31 minutes might be under on projections. He might go 35 minutes because there's nobody to take those minutes. He's one of the best defensive players out of that rookie class last season. And this 62nd ranked projection has got nothing to do with him scoring. I'm not even thinking he's going to have any part on offense. It's the fact that he's getting 8 rebounds, 2 steals, 0.7 blocks, and not hurting percentages. That's how the projections go. That's why the rank is bullshit. That's why I don't prescribe to ranks and rankings, that they don't mean anything really. Hollis Jefferson has tremendous value, but it's got to be in the right build. If your team is already struggling in points and you add him, well, you're never coming back from it at that point in a draft. So you're either punting it or you just lost that category. But if you've saved yourself up and you didn't get steals early, and you say you went punt assists, which often reduces your steals, grab him at pick 100. There's 2 steals. Bang, I'm back in the game in that category. His numbers come out that way. And again, give me an argument as to who's taking his minutes.
Sean Kilpatrick.
Yeah, no. There's
Chase Budinger.
Yeah, he signed today, didn't he? Yeah, cool. Chase Budinger's getting the minutes. Yeah, look, Bojan Bogdanovic will play the 2. Rondé will play the 3. Karis LeVert, they've already said they're going to take him on slowly. I really like LeVert, but LeVert's a 2-1. He's not a 2-3. And if anyone's losing minutes, it's not Hollis Jefferson, it's Bogdanovic for LeVert. That's the way that they would run things. And said LeVert's a 1 and a 2. He's not a 3, despite him being 6'7". He's not a 3. Hollis Jefferson can play the 4 as well, for little chunks of time. Again, if you can give me an argument as to why he won't put up 9 and 8 with 2 steals and 0.7 blocks, I'm all for it. They're not outlandish numbers by any stretch.
Yeah, if he's available sort of between 90 and 110, I'm all over it.
Yeah, get him. Look, you don't get 2 steals from anyone. You can't get 2 steals. We talk about Trevor Ariza being a top 50 guy because he gets 2 steals and 2.5 threes. 8 rebounds and 2 steals is pretty damn close to it. He got a lot last year. He's played 27 games in the NBA. Like, the dude is young. Like, he can grow. He can actually maybe develop some. Maybe he gets 12 points a game. I think he's a top 50 type of guy. That, again, it's not. I'm not saying he's going out and getting 20 and 8. That's not what he's doing. If he did, it'd be great.
And in our projections, we've only got 6 guys who are averaging 2 steals or more. And one of those was Chris Middleton, who's now done. The other guys are Steph Curry, Paul George, Victor Oladipo, Trevor Ariza, and Rondé Hollis Jefferson.
Yep.
So, and then the next one is James Harden, Tony Allen's the other steals guy, and then Eric Bledsoe. So all of the steals are going, well inside the top 50. So to get Hollis Jefferson at 100 and give you that massive boost in steals is awesome value.
Yeah, he got last season he had 2.3 steals per 36 minutes. He got in Summer League he had 4.4 steals per 36 minutes. It's not a fluke that he gets a lot of steals. In his last 10 games, he had 2.2 steals and 1.5 blocks per 36 minutes. We've actually got his block numbers going down from last year, so that actually might even go up, and he might be even more valuable. So, again, don't look at 62 and go, Josh, you're a dickhead. You don't know what you're talking about. I don't put Hollis Jefferson and go, he's the 62nd best player. I put his numbers in, and overall relative value, the steals are just so valuable that that's where it puts him. And again, you do with that what you need to do, but doesn't mean pick him there. It means pick him at 100 and be happy about it and love it. And that's it. The next tier, Matty.
We just got to talk about Aaron Gordon because
there's
obviously been heaps of talk about him in Orlando and maybe Vogel turning him into a Paul George type. I was just looking at the projections here, like 15 points, 8 rebounds, 1.2 steals, nearly a 3, nearly a block a game. And to me, in terms of this is statistical value, this isn't the way he plays the game, and got nothing to do with playing type or playing style, but just his projections and numbers. That, to me, is a poor man's Kawhi Leonard. The points, the out-of-position rebounds, and the 1-1-1 across those numbers with good field goal percentage, about 48% we've got him for. Sure, free throw percentage is down a little bit, but I was like, that's like Kawhi Leonard, small forward numbers.
Yeah, look, he's a really good rebounder. He was screwed by Skiles last season, which again that was the Magic's team motto last year. So you can throw out a lot of the stuff that happened with the players who didn't quite live up to performances because Scotty had to get CJ Watson into the games. He had to make sure Jason Smith played. He had to make sure as many shit kickers as possible actually got on the court and played over developing young talent. Gordon, look, there's a risk that doesn't work at the 3 for him. There's a risk that all the other Biyombo and Ibaka and Vucevic, and it stops him playing the 4. But I've got him at 32 minutes. I don't think that's a huge amount of minutes. Again, he could easily exceed these numbers, I think. I've picked him in the 70s in one draft. I'm happy with getting him there. I think there's upside there. Yeah, there's a bit of downside, but there's not much.
Yep, I like 70 range as well. Tier 7. Got Harrison Barnes, Robert Covington, and Danilo Gallinari. Now, Harrison Barnes, if this was any other player or just a no-name player and we didn't know him as Harrison Barnes, the hype train would be through the roof. But because he is called Harrison Barnes, he's still flying under the radar. This could be a massive breakout season for him, and he's still... like no one's talking about him.
Yeah, look, we've got him at 16 and 6, with 45 and 75, 1.5 threes. Again, it's not crazy, is it? He's the, by the time you listen to this podcast, you would have heard the Mavericks podcast, and Mike Marshall says that I said that he's going to be the number 2 option. He says I think he's going to be the 1B option. So he's going to get a lot of touches, and I think he's going to surprise people. You hear a lot of the Warriors guys, especially Andrew Bogut, talking about the pencil. He goes, he can average 20 points. He's that talented. He played in the role. Yeah, you know what? He had 3 bad games to end his Golden State career. Fine. But he also had some decent ones. I don't care about what money he was paid. Like, what role has he got? He's got a good one. And he's got to work. Look, his defensive numbers aren't great, but I think he can get a steal a game. Will he block shots? Probably not. Does he pass the ball? Not much. But points, rebounds, threes, 2 percentages that are solid. A steal a game. It's fine for pick 100.
Yeah, look, he's coming from the team who best regular season record ever, and he didn't have the usage there. He spent the off season, I was going to say summer, which was our winter, with the Olympic dream team. So imagine the knowledge he picked up just by being around those guys.
You always hear of the Team USA bump, but it never gets applied to Harrison Barnes for some reason.
Yeah. So, I even think 16.7 points could be a little low. It could be 18.
Easily.
He could just be consistently putting up 16 to 20 points a night, and the 6 or 7 rebounds. I just think we're not pumping him up enough, but maybe that's a good thing because you will be able to get him at 100 to 110, and just go, thank you very much.
What about Bob Cove? He was awesome last season after a poor start to the season, but I'll say this plenty of times. You have a severe ankle injury. When you come back, your output's not going to be the same. That's just what it is. He missed the first few weeks of the season with an ankle problem, severe ankle problems, and the Pencil had one of them last year as well, so don't be surprised if that didn't affect what he did. You have a severe ankle injury, it impacts you the rest of the season. Bob Carve struggled, but he also had games where he had 9 steals and hit 6 threes and was a top 50 guy for big stretches of last season. Now, I don't think there's any chance he plays the same amount of minutes as last year, but I think that he's a lock to start, though.
Yeah, I think he has to start, but still, like, that small forward to centre with Covington, I know they still have to delist or...
Yeah, one guy's got to go.
Cut one of their players, but like in terms of Covington, Grant, Hollis Thompson, and then now you throw in Ben Simmons and Dario Saric into the mix, sort of at that small forward, power forward position, and Simmons handling the ball. Not that Covington did much last year anyway. Like, he's still going to be so important for them as that perimeter shooter and spreading the floor, but the minutes are just a concern. Like, there's so many guys that can go through that forward spot.
We've got him at 27 minutes at the moment. Look, if he had 33 minutes, he's a top 50 guy without any question. You can probably get him at the end of a draft and get 1.5 steals, 2 threes a game, good rebounds, good free throw percentage, and that's fine at that point in the draft. But if for some reason they go, we just really need to get Bob Cove out there for 33 minutes, then that's a real bargain, because he's gonna hit probably 3 threes a game if he gets 30 plus minutes. He's going to get 7 rebounds. He's going to get potentially 2 steals. He can get up to that level. He's that good at getting steals. It's all going to come down to minutes, but he is in that range because we just don't know how that's going to work out. What about the Rooster, Danilo Gallinari? He's really good. He's very underrated. You can get him late. There is no one you can get this late that influences free throw percentage like him. He's a guy that we've got projected to go 87% on 7 attempts. You can't get that sort of impact. He's a top 7 free throw percentage impact player.
But, however, he's only played more than 70 games once in the last 5 seasons, Josh.
Yep.
That's not good, as you would say.
Yeah, that's the problem with him, is he's had a lot of injuries. But, Matty, you pick him at pick 90. I don't think you really give a shit, do you?
Well, you don't, but my argument would be, if you're picking him sort of in that 80 to 90 range, surely, well, in my opinion, and we can disagree, but I think I would rather take a Harrison Barnes who could become a top 60 player across 75 games than get 60 games of top 50 out of Gallinari and him not helping me the second half of the season. I'm at that 80 to 90 range. You want that guy, or a guy who can jump up into the top 50 like a CJ McCollum, like a Jay Crowder, like a Jimmy Butler or Draymond Green from years past. You want that guy who can, get that sleeper and give you that big boost in value.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I can understand the reservations, and that's why he slips to the 90s and potentially into the hundreds with Gallinari, because of that risk with the injury. But he wants to be in Denver. He's a good scorer. He hits threes. He's great free throw percentage, great volume, gets some steals. He is a decent guy, but I guess it depends on it also. Like, what other guys have you got? Have you got some other risky players there? Yeah. And another thing I want to throw out there, Matty, as well, about injuries is, how's Chris Middleton's injury history?
It was good up until now.
Shit can happen to anybody. So if you base your entire draft over a guy... Look, in Gallinari is a bit of a different story because it's been 5-6 years of this, basically. But if you base your entire draft over someone, he was injured last season, I'm not drafting him. Guys go down at any point. You know who never missed a game before he did? Damian Lillard. You know who else never missed a game before he did? DeAndre Jordan. You know who else didn't? Russell Westbrook. And now all of a sudden, I saw someone say, I don't want to take Lillard in the second round because he had injury problems last season. People change their minds so quickly on this stuff. And people aren't injured until they are. And then it's a problem. And people are injured until they're not, like Steph Curry. And no one cares about that anymore until he does his ankle again, and then it'll be, of course, the same shit happening again. But again, Gallinari's in a little bit of a different situation, but people aren't injury prone until they are. And you never know when that's happening.
And people trying to tell me on Twitter today that you shouldn't be drafting this far from the start of the season in case injuries happen. Well, surely once pre-season starts and they're playing basketball, there's more likely to be injuries.
Yep. I don't know. I never understand that argument, because what does it matter? Everyone drafted at the same time, so everyone's in the same boat. And say, look, it was 2 seasons ago, and Al Horford went down for the season in the second week of the year. Is that better?
Yeah, that's what I said.
What's the difference?
if you draft the day before opening night and then someone gets a season-ending injury on opening night, your season's still stuffed one way or another. It doesn't matter when you draft. Like Drew Holiday's just been bad. Like Chris Middleton's just been bad. Like it could be anyone in a fortnight's time when pre-season starts.
Exactly.
And this is why in both of my leagues I've got campaign stashed, because we've still got 5 weeks before the season starts. If Russell Westbrook falls out of bed and bangs his head and sprains his wrist and missed 2 weeks, then campaign's value goes through the roof.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you can't stash everyone, but yeah, just in terms of upside. So anyway, that's my little rant for the day, Josh.
Tier 8.
2 guys who one's maybe going up a little bit, one's just still counting his money. That's Otto Porter and Kent Bazemore. I still think Otto Porter can turn into that Damari Carroll type glue guy, can just do a little bit of everything.
He's solid.
Stealing a bit, throwing a bit, doesn't really hurt you anywhere. And I still think he's got a bit of room for improvement on last season.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you can get him sort of 120, I'll take that. And Kent Bazemore, very similar sort of stats, but will give you worse field goal percentage, so just beware of that. And yeah, at Porter at 23 years of age and Bazemore at 27, give me Porter any day of the week.
You're not picking Porter at his ADP of 41, I'm guessing?
No, not quite. 100 to 120 range for Otto Porter for me.
I still don't believe that Kent Bazemore is good. We saw a couple of good months from him. I think he's gutsy. I think he's a good bloke. I think he looks like a great teammate and seems like a really good guy. But the last half of the season, it was Lakers tower waving Kent Bazemore. He couldn't shoot and he can't shoot. Yeah, he had a couple of hot months to start the season. He barely played 30 minutes a night. I don't even think he did over the second half of the season. He's not, and that's why it was just befuddling to me. They drafted 2 small forwards and then paid him $70 million. Just a weird decision. Look, he's not going to go out there and play 33 minutes a night. He's going to continue to that 30-minute mark. He's a poor shooter. Yeah, he's fine at that point, but I don't see the upside with Bazemore, unfortunately. Maybe I'm the only person that's left just completely feeling incredulous, just seeing why is everyone in love with this guy from a play perspective, and I just don't think he's that good. Again, I think he's solid. I think he'd be a really solid 6th man, but as a starting wing, I reckon your team struggles a little bit with him in that position.
Yeah, and once again, we mentioned this on the Shooting Guard Tiers podcast. There's just like Korver, Hardaway Jr., Bazemore, Sefolosha, like they've got a number of options who can go through those 2 wing spots. So,
yep.
Add in Dwight Howard now and a lot of usage going through him. So, Kent Bazemore's not one on my radar.
Tier 9, Matty.
Tier 9, we've got Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Damari Carroll, and Luol Deng now. I haven't been quite sold on Kidd-Gilchrist's fantasy value in the past. Better real life player than fantasy player, but I'm starting to warm to Kidd-Gilchrist and liking what I'm hearing and seeing, especially if you need a big bump in rebounds from your small forward position, and if you can get to that steal and block per game, that would be massive.
Yeah, I think he's got potential to do that. Obviously, he's one of the best defensive players in the game. A lot of the time, these really good defenders, it takes them 4 or 5 years for that to translate into turnovers and block shots. For whatever reason it is, it just takes that time. Really good rebounder. He attempted over 1 3 a game in his 7 games last year after attempting 0 the season before. So again, I don't buy that he's a 45% shooter from 3, which he was last season, but what I do buy is he's 100% more confident in his shot. The fact that he took 10 shots in 7 games as opposed to 0 in 82 or whatever it was the year before that means that he thinks it can go in. And it's not going in at 42%, but the fact that he can actually shoot it and maybe get you half a 3, it helps him stay on the court, it helps spread the floor, it helps take pressure off the other guys, and yeah, he's a good last pick to me.
He's still only 22 years of age, and he's been in the league for 4 years. This is his 5th season.
Real young.
And from everything that I've read and listened to about him, just one of the hardest workers in the league. Just incredibly hard worker.
What about Damari?
Damari I loved a couple of seasons going in Atlanta. Not so sure now. 30 years old. With the Raptors, and maybe this is the season where he slowly starts to get phased out. We see a bit more Norman Powell. on the wings there. Who's that other power forward? Jared Sullinger.
Yep.
They signed in the off season as well, so maybe he eats into some of Carroll's minutes. Yeah, maybe with your last pick in your standard draft, but he'll be a reasonable streaming option as well in standard leagues, which there seems to be a ton of.
Oh, there's going to be lots of those guys.
Streaming option.
Absolutely.
But yeah, once again, I'd take MKG, Otto Porter, over Carroll.
What about your final tier?
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys here to make up my 30. Evan Turner, Solomon Hill, Kyle Anderson, Justice Winslow, Stanley Johnson, TJ Warren, and I've got Justice Winslow in there again. So I'll have to get rid of him and put in someone else.
Doubly on him.
Yeah, no, he's in there twice. So I haven't actually. Well, I can say I haven't actually finished my article as we're recording. So I threw him in at the last minute because I had to, move some other guys around. But with my last pick, I'd take a flyer on Stanley Johnson out of all those guys. Who's your pick?
Yeah, I'd probably take Stan. I think I did take Stan in one. I'd be looking at him, TJ Warren, or Kyle Anderson. Probably, I think that with PJ Tucker's back injury, Warren has the opportunity to take a starting job and be a decent player. Stan Johnson's going to take some minutes from KCP and from Marcus Morris. And Kyle Anderson's going to have to fill in some of the gap that the Spurs lost with the loss of David West and Boris Diaw, I think. So he's going to have to take on some of that role. He showed he can handle it last season, and I think that he probably doesn't have a huge opportunity to be a top 100 guy, but he's a solid-ish last round guy. So I'd probably have him behind Stan and TJ Warren.
Yep. Yeah, look for TJ Warren to get a few extra minutes there at small forward with the Tucker to PJ Tucker.
Yep.
With his back injury. And Solomon Hill, the other one, coming across to the Pelicans, should be able to see some time, maybe enough time there on the wing with his defense. Do you think we'll get any fantasy value out of Hill?
It depends which Hill we're going to see. The one that started in Indiana when Paul George was out and gave us nothing, or the one that decided he could hit 39% of his threes at the end of last season and is a really decent rebounder and a really good defender. A really solid 3-and-D guy, which the Pelicans need. Whether he can translate that into great value remains to be seen, but he's going to have the opportunity to do it. I think he can play some 3, he can play some 4. Yeah. He's a decent guy, but we have seen him have one crack at it before and struggle with it.
Yeah, very, very interesting to see what happens there. I'm starting to like that Rudy Gay to the Pelicans deal.
Who are they sending back? Tyreek Evans? Back to Sacramento?
Yeah, what's his... Yeah, that would probably match money-wise as well.
They could send Drew Holiday back there. The Kings would love that. I don't think they would, but you never know.
Just send them Amira Sheet. They like big guys.
Yeah, Alexia Jinsa.
Yeah, they don't have enough. Need a couple more.
Yep, they play the whole 5-center lineup.
Well, yeah, Boogie can play the point.
Exactly. Yeah. Boogie and Skull can back him up. Done.
But just remember, he's not going to be an all-star this year.
Who, Boogie?
No, Scowl.
Oh, he won't be. No.
No, but wasn't the case?
It was Jaeger. Yeah, he said just to relax because he won't be an all-star. Yeah.
Calm your tits. Yep. He's not going to be an all-star. Okay, if you say so.
We're aware of that. We are well aware of that, Dave Jaeger. Matty, I think we're done with the small forward tiers.
Right.
Do you want to give everyone a reminder where they can find you on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at SManSports. Point guards, shooting guards, and small forwards are out, and we'll have power forwards article and podcast out sometime next week.
Correct. So check those out. The best way to find out when those podcasts come out is by subscribing either on iTunes or Stitcher or TuneIn or Google Play. Any of those methods you can subscribe using the RSS feed as well, which you can find on Basketball Monster and on redrockbasketball.com. Check out the rest of the Locked On Podcast Network, the rest of the team preview shows, which will be wrapping up in about a week's time. Drafts are obviously coming up. Media days are coming up. Preseason is coming up. Lots of exciting stuff happening. Matt, are you pumped?
Am I pumped, did you say?
Yep.
Yes.
Good.
Yes, I am.
That's the correct answer. Matt, thank you for coming on again.
Anytime, mate. Cheers.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.